Joining us is author Nicole Asselin. Nicole is here to talk with us about a second book that she has written. Some of you may remember that Madeline, that is a character that is in the book Murder at First Pitch, written by author Nicole Asselin. Nicole, welcome to the program.
Thank you so much for having me again. This is so exciting.
Let's talk a little bit about the first book, just for folks who may or may not had a chance to purchase your first book, Murder at First Pitch. Give us the details about the first book.
Sure. So Murder at First Pitch was released in September of 2019, pre-pandemic, and it centers on a young woman named Madeline, no relation to my actual cat, Madeline. And it's set in Abington, which is where I live. There is no ballpark, but I made one up because who wouldn't want to pretend to run a baseball team? And of course, when she returns to work for her family, she stumbles across a dead body, as one does in a cozy mystery, and sort of inserts herself in the investigation to clear her family name. Her brother gets accused of the murder, so she gets involved. And that's kind of how she gets reintroduced to the world of the fake world of independent league baseball in Abington.
So tell us a little bit about your newest book, because I think in our previous conversation, you teased the idea that this might be a little bit of a book series. What is Concession Stand Crimes all about?
So Concession Stand Crimes, it was really fun. I continued Madeline's story. So we're still in Abington. We're still at the Armadillos ballpark. And it just, much like Murder, She Wrote, there's another incident at the ballpark, even though people still keep going there. And it centers around the heiress of a beer brewery fortune on the South Shore, completely made up again because there are a lot of breweries out here, but and she ends up getting murdered. And it's, again, Madeline kind of finds herself not so much inserting herself, but getting information comes through her. She's a little bit nosy, so she overhears a lot of discussions and she picks up on things. And she sort of assists the detective, kind of like, hey, I heard this information. You might want to check this out. And it kind of just dovetails from there. And it was a little bit more fun to play around with the ballpark a little bit more. So there's a few more events. There's a few more Abington Easter eggs, like Martin's Restaurant. And it was just really fun to keep Madeline's adventures, I guess to say. Her murderous adventures going in the second book. So I'm excited for it to be out.
I could be wrong here, but it sounds to me as though being an author allows you to combine two things that you really like. A, I believe that you're probably a really big baseball fan.
Of course.
Okay. and it also feels like maybe you might be somebody who really likes murder mystery themed books.
Yeah, when I grew up, as I was growing up, my parents, my dad's always been a big reader. We would spend summers in Connecticut with my grandparents, and at the time they only had the Yes Network which is the Yankees channel. And my grandfather was like, "Nope, we're not watching that." So we would listen to all the Red Sox games on the radio in the summer, and that's still how I prefer to listen to my Red Sox games, is Joe Castiglione and Will Fleming. And so every night I fall asleep to the dulcet sounds of hopefully the Red Sox winning. And then my grandmother always had like a stack of used mystery novels on her like next to her chair. And so she would finish like 2 books a day, 3 books a day. So I'd always just see her reading those mysteries. And I think mysteries are fun to write because you can sort of, especially cozy mysteries, because you can make it feel real, but still have all these little fun, like, let's be honest, not all of us are going out and solving mysteries every day, but by writing it, you can kind of feel like you're an investigator and kind of all that stuff. So it's really fun to be able to play around with that. So I enjoyed that part of it. And also, if you get mad at somebody, you can, put their name in the book. Names have been changed kind of thing, but you can use that as a little catharsis to get that out.
So this being your second book, was there any change in your process of storytelling this time around?
Yeah, it was a little bit. So I started the second book almost immediately after the first book was published in 2019, and then pandemic happened. So creativity kind of went down a little bit. I was working from home, so it was hard to go from working at my home work computer to coming to my writing computer to do the book. So so I apologize. That's why it took so long to come out, because there's a pandemic. But I did find that my a better way to write is now I focus on small chapters instead of just writing stream of consciousness. I find it's a little bit easier to go, oh, I can write 500 words a day and not have to kind of put all that pressure on myself to get something completed, which is how I'm working on book 3 right now. I do have like a sort of outline for book 3, but I'm not following it. So we're back to the regular, just a couple chapters, a week, just to see how the flow is going.
A lot of writers that I have, authors that I have had a privilege to speak with over the years, some of them encourage this thing called writer's block. Did you ever have to overcome such a hurdle? And what's your process to break through to continue writing?
Yeah, writer's block is real. I don't trust anybody who says it isn't. Although some people are just really good at writing and they don't get that little. I mean, we all have a little bit of self-doubt, and we start writing. We're like, this doesn't work. What am I going to do? Or how am I? We call it the messy middle or the muddled middle, because you get a really good idea of what your beginning is. We get a really good idea of what the end is, and then you have to expand on it for 70,000 words, and you're like, oh, how am I going to do that? So I definitely get it, and I definitely got it during the pandemic when my creativity was a little bit lower because there was just so much going on. But I found that if I just take a day, a lot of times I go outside and I write on my deck because it's away from all the distractions, and you can kind of get it. And then I read a lot of books when I start to get blocked a little bit, read a couple mysteries to see kind of how their flow goes. One of the great things about writing a baseball mystery is now that baseball's back full time, I kind of have a lot of inspiration from teams across the country. I follow a lot of independent league, minor league, futures league teams on Twitter and Instagram. So if I start to feel like I'm missing something, I can steal from their creativity. Like the Savannah Bananas is who I steal a lot from. They're a team down in Georgia, and they're kind of like the Harlem Globetrotters of baseball. So they do all, stupid stuff, like they do TikTok dances in between. They announce themselves as they come up to bat. So I kind of try to pepper things like that into the book, kind of to jazz it up a little bit.
I've actually seen a Savannah Bananas video. There was one with pitchers getting ready to pitch, and the fielders behind them are dancing along with the pitcher before he throws it over home plate.
Dances. It's just fun, and it's kind of how I watched a story about them on SportsCenter, and it was just a guy who the team was for sale, and he's like, I want to own a baseball team, and now he shows up to every game in a big yellow suit, and they have a great time. So it's pretty cool. And this year I'm actually doing a couple, I'm doing a road show with the book and going to a couple baseball games. So I'm going up to Nashua for July 4th to the Silver Knights, and I'm going down south Pennsylvania to the Harrisburg Senators game, which is where I grew up, down in Mechanicsburg. So it's going to be fun to actually bring the book to baseball this time, instead of just trying to corral people and be like, are you a baseball fan? Are you a baseball fan? Come see me. I'm going to go to where the fans are and hopefully have them enjoy my book as well.
If you're just tuning in, we are speaking with Nicole Asselin. She is the author of a new book called Concession Stand Crimes. And we're learning all about the book and her writing process. It's interesting. You mentioned about independent baseball. Knowing that you're a baseball fan, I'm not sure as to what era, but in the local area, the Brockton area, you get the Brockton Rocks.
Yep.
And are you going to do anything at the Campanelli Stadium? Seeing that there are a lot of second generation baseball players.
I mean, D'Angelo Ortiz is there, Manny's son, I think Keith Folk's son. Like, whoa. Gosh, I remember watching Red Sox games when David Ortiz's son was like 5, and now he's like a real baseball player. Like, oh my God. I actually sent them an email last week, so I'm hoping to see something, if I can work with them, in the next couple of weeks to do something. Because yeah, you're right. It is literally 10 minutes from Abington, maybe. And I drive by it all the time, and I'm constantly in Brockton. There's a very good Starbucks there. So
Now, did you have to do any kind of research just to make sure that there's authenticity to any direction your book has got, any direction that your book went in?
I did not a ton, because I did want to make it kind of a wish fulfillment. If I owned a team, this is what I would do, kind of thing. When I first started writing the first in the book, Murder at First Pitch, I did read a book called The Only Rule Is It Has to Work. And it was a book about two dudes who just decided to buy a baseball team, like a minor league independent with old washed up players. I think Jose Canseco played with them once, like when he was 45, stuff like that. And they kind of ran through all the stats of how they made the team successful, how they made money, how they didn't make money. And one of the things I found, that I think I put it in the first book, I can't remember. It's been so long. Is that they would, if you caught a foul ball or if you caught a home run ball, if you brought it to the concession stand, they'd give you $5, because they were in desperate need of balls. They couldn't afford to lose those balls. So you'd get a free hot dog, or you get $5 back. And I just thought it's so fascinating, the ways that these teams, because it is such a competitive market for your eyeballs and for your entertainment. Like, people want to go to movies, people want to go to the pool, and they may necessarily want to sit for 9 innings in the hot sun. So I think it's really fascinating to see how these community ballparks like Brockton, like the one in Nashua, kind of keep bringing people in and provide family entertainment for, let's be real. I went to a Red Sox game on Mother's Day, and I probably spent $100 between tickets, parking, and then of course you got to get a hot dog, and then of course you got to get a souvenir. And so I think to provide that family of 4, family of however many, the opportunity, that to me really is the draw of these smaller clubs. And you get to see the stars of the future, like the Cape League. You get players that are going to be in the big leagues in 1 or 2 years, and it's free. It's amazing. That's why I hope the sport can keep. I do talk a lot about that in book 2, about how the sport, you got to keep reinventing yourself, because you got to keep competing with all the stuff that's out there.
It's interesting that you say that, because when they built Campanelli Stadium and brought in, they're part of the Can-Am League, the Canadian American League that is now defunct. I think prior to the pandemic, they went belly up. They no longer ceased to operate. But if you do research independent baseball, the shelf life can be anywhere from 8 to 10 years, which means you're right. You have to be highly creative to keep the folks coming back and having Star Wars night, different little nuances to draw people to the ballpark. So, are you saying that you might have little nuggets like that somewhere as Easter eggs?
Yeah, in book 2, Madeline's first big event that she's planning at the park to try to turn the tides and make sure people keep coming is an 80s night. So I took I know a lot of teams have done 80s nights where they change up the uniform, they give out like slat bracelets, a lot of day glow. I also used I think the Mix 104.1, Carson and Kennedy. I'm a big fan. And so I put them in the book too as kind of the MCs and just like stuff like that, just to keep it fun. And also so that people, like, I'm going to a craft fair later and it's in the town that the book is in. So it's nice to be able to say like, hey, if you have something that you love about this town, I'll put it in there, because it is great to be able to throw some shine on these South Shore towns that a lot of, Boston mysteries are set in Boston or on the Cape or on the North Shore. I don't know of very many that are really South Shore focused. And hey, we got a lot of personality down here, so I got to write some books about it,
Sure, exactly. And that's how I think how you gain interest, especially locally, is just putting in little things that are, maybe Wareham is known for something, or maybe Cohasset is known for something, and it somehow is in the book. let's talk about characters. We know that Madeline is kind of the anchor pin, the anchor to the book itself. Who are some of the other individuals or characters who are built around Madeline in this story?
So she, of course, is very close to her family. The parents still are involved with the team. They're slowly trying to retire. So, they thought the son was going to be able to take over because, firstborn sons, all that good stuff. But he's kind of choosing a different direction. So they're like, Madeline, we want you to keep it going. So they're involved. One of my favorite characters, I know I'm not supposed to play favorites with my children, but is Eliza. She's the receptionist / best friend / sounding board. She's always been one of my favorite characters because she's very much based on a lot of the people on the South Shore that my best friend's from Pembroke. A coworker was from Pembroke, and it's just kind of that whole, she's just fun to write because she's kind of brassy and kind of just takes no guff, which all my South Shore friends just take nothing. Don't worry, they'll tell you what they think. And then there's Davis, who is the security guard or the head security person of the team, because you always have to have a cute security guard. And he's kind of the love interest / straight man for Madeline's crazy adventures and thoughts. One interesting thing is when I wrote the first book, I held a contest at one of my first events to name a character if they bought a book, and somebody did, and it's an actual Abington resident, and so I got to put her in the book as well. Her family grew up in Abington. She was in Abington for like 50 years, so she's kind of like this grandmotherly character that I'm really excited to introduce and hopefully get to bring out more books, and just super fun that way.
I will tell you the one thing that I'm a big fan of is the cover art for your books. Great cover art for your first book, Murder at First Pitch, and the second one is even more clever. Talk to us about the concept behind the cover art.
I cede all credit to Don Kramer at Pandamoon Publishing. He has a really good questionnaire. Yeah, like a questionnaire that he asks before you write the book. Like, hey, what would you like? What would you not like? What colors are you looking for? All this kind of stuff. And so when I think this, I'm looking at Concession Stand Crimes right now from across the room, and I'm like, I think we had a couple of discussions about it because we wanted to make sure people knew there was beer in it. And obviously we want to keep the logo of the concession of the baseball, because that's kind of the logo of the book now. And I hate saying this, he hit it out of the park. No pun intended. And he's just been amazing to work with as a cover artist. Like, I can't even imagine the graphic work that goes into it. So usually it's within 1 or 2 covers that he sends me that I'm like, that's it. Perfect. Done. See you later. And, we don't have to go back and forth a ton of times, which is really nice and exciting.
Yeah, just again, you get the pulled focus on the first one with the baseball that's kind of looks as though it's really battered. But then if you look at like you mentioned beer, but then if you look at the baseball, it looks like a little smattering of blood on the baseball. I mean, these are all little hidden things if you really pay attention. It's and again, I love the font.
I was going to say the font is probably my favorite because it does evoke like a program or a baseball team font, and it's just like I said, the whole team at Pandamoon's been great to work with. So I really lucked out. And it's because she's a big Red Sox fan is that I'm with them. She found me on Twitter, Zara Kramer, and she's like, I'm a big Red Sox fan in Texas and I love your book because I love baseball. I've been coaching for years and all this stuff. And so I think it's one of those, I know a lot of writers out there are like, it's so hard to get a publisher. It's so hard to get an agent, but you just have to find that right person who connects with your book, who kind of understands what you're doing. I was rejected 100 times before I got my publisher. So I feel like there is somebody out there. It's very much the same rules apply to dating as it does to getting an agent or a publisher. There's someone out there for you. It's just right place, right time, right connection. And I lucked out with Pandamoon as my connection. I think it's been awesome to work with them.
Yeah, it sounds to me as though your patience, your perseverance has paid off in finding the publisher and the right partner to be able to publish these books moving forward.
And also being a part of organizations like Sisters in Crime and Mystery Writers of America, I joined them before I even had the germ of an idea for a book. And even just being around all these other prolific mystery writers and cozy mystery writers, just stealing, taking some of that knowledge, absorbing some of their knowledge really helped me focus. And it helps me now too, because as an independent author, you have to do a lot of your own publicity. You have to get yourself out there. You have to go sell at craft fairs or baseball fields, or you have to contact independent bookstores and say, hey, I'd love to put my book in your store. So I think by having that kind of group, you don't feel so alone, which is nice.
If you are just tuning in, we are speaking with Nicole Asselin. She is the author of the first book she put out, The Murder at First Pitch, and now we're giving you details about her latest book, Concession Stand Crimes. You have just right around the corner, talking is almost like it's a perfect segue. You actually have a launch party that's going to be planned for July 15th. Give us the details.
It's actually July 16th. It's a Saturday, 12 to 4. Yep, 12 to 4 at the Study Hall 101 in Kingston at the Kingston Collection. It's a new library-themed restaurant bar thing. There'll be cake and there'll be snacks and there'll be books and there'll be me. The book is actually, you can actually order the paperback on Amazon right now before the release date and get it early. But the official release date, if you pre-order the Kindle, is Wednesday, the 29th of June. But you can order I've already ordered the paperback for myself and my mom. So we get the early access. But yeah, so it's going to be a launch party where I'll have both book 1, Murder at First Pitch, and book 2. And you'll get to meet me. You'll get to meet my family, which some of them are, referenced in the book in characters. You'll see some personalities. And yeah, it'd be really great to see people come out and A, check out this really cool new bar, and B, buy some books.
Well, let's talk about, you've done a series of author talks. What was it like for the first book, and are you excited about planning author talks for the new book?
So excited. I have been a library fanatic for my entire life. I go to the library at least once a week, even though I have a shit ton of books, a crap ton, a lot of books to read still. And one of my first events was an author talk with the Abington Public Library in October of 2019. And then of course everything shut down. So it became a Zoom author talk, which still is equally as fun because I, only have to wear clothes from the waist up and put on makeup for like 6 hours and not have to worry about it. This year, I'm actually working with the library again to do an author talk, hopefully this fall, as part of their, with the Abington Library. And if you are a library director or member, just hit me up on my website. I love to talk, and I will talk about anything. It doesn't even have to be my book. It can be mysteries. If you are a library, we also, with Sisters in Crime, we have a speakers bureau where you can bring in multiple mystery authors at a time, and we have a really cool event called Mystery Making, and which is basically Whose Line It Is It Anyway, but for murder mysteries. We make up a mystery on the spot. So go to the SINC.org website and you can find that there, or come to my website, NicoleAsselinWriter.com, and I'll come talk to anybody.
So it's worth noting, being an avid reader, for those who are out there who are tuned in, what are you reading now?
Oh, so many things. I probably have about 3 Kindle books going. I'm reading a fantasy novel called City of Dusk by Tara Sim. I belong to a website called NetGalley, which is where you get advanced readers' copies of mysteries. So I'm reading the latest, it's Jennifer Ashley is the author, and it's like the Bow Lane Mysteries, where she's a cook and she solves mysteries on the side. There's another series of books. It's called A Trace of Poison. Her first book was Murder at Malwyn Hall. And so a little bit of everything, let's put it that way. The Ninth House by Leah Bardugo is another one on my list. I really would love to just read all day, but got to pay the bills. So, and got to pay for those books is really what it is if they're not library books. So
So if there was a question that I haven't asked you as an author, but you feel that you want to share a little nugget, whether it's about the book or yourself, with our audience, what would you say?
I would just say, if, especially to writers, don't try to write what you think people want. You have to write what you want. And like I said, the reason I wrote these two books, and hopefully the third shortly, is I love baseball. I love mysteries. I didn't have a ton in the cozy world. There's, Robert Parker writes baseball mysteries, but that's a little bit harder edged than mine. There's also a series from the 80s by a former sports writer, a woman sports writer, who wrote a couple of mysteries, but nothing in the Hallmark murder mystery genre now. So I just decided to write what I wanted. And like I said, that's how I got my publisher, which is just, she's like, I love baseball. And I've met so many women and readers who are like, this is what I've been wanting, something that kind of focuses on both of my interests. So write what you want. And like it takes is one person to read your book, and that's it. And you'll be good to go.
Again, we've been speaking with Nicole Asselin, author of her new book, Concession Stand Crimes. Again, don't forget, Study Hall 101 Kingston Collection, July 16th, and books now available on Amazon. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep.
And your website as we close out our conversation.
NicoleAsselinWriter.com. NicoleAsselin writer.com.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. This is so fun. It's good to see you.
Thank you so much for tuning in. And until our next conversation, have a great day.